Okay, if you're one of those people who's been watching what's going on in the real estate market and wondering, should I buy, should I sell? What is going on with the foreign buyer tax? What's the real impact? Well, we're about to find out.
And what are the real numbers? Because I'm confused. Because I've seen 6 or 7 different numbers quoted today. I saw one report saying this is detached homes, and I saw another report saying condo sales are going up. Good heavens, do we have 2 people that have joined forces that could possibly help us with this?
I believe we do. We have Steve Saretsky, who's a Vancouver realtor. We have Tom Davidoff, a UBC economist at the Sauder School of Business, who's an expert in housing. And these guys have been sort of teaming up and number crunching lately, and they're both on the line.
I actually saw Tom on the television the other day. He's got a very cozy looking sweater that I'd love to get off him, to be honest with you.
Well, there you go. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Very well. It was a Marshall sweater in Boston. I think $18.
There you go.
$18. Good for you. Let's start with you, Tom. What are your thoughts on the numbers released today by the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver?
Well, numbers are way down overall. We're seeing way fewer sales than we saw a year ago, to get rid of the sort of seasonality, or a month ago. Last August was pretty crazy. The market was really frothy. So we had, I would say, a somewhat worse than average August, which is a real step back from a very perky market the last year or year and a half.
And so, Steve, do you think it's because of the foreign buyer tax or a combination of things?
I think definitely a combination. Like I said before, that obviously changed the mentality of locals. So I don't necessarily want to say that the foreign buyers have left, but I think a lot of it has changed the mentality for sure, not only with locals, but with the foreigners as well.
Steve, I saw you tweet today, you could poke holes in the real estate board stats all day. What did you mean by that?
Well, I mean, stats can be portrayed in any way that, people want them to be portrayed. So I think that the real estate board, maybe has a job or whatever you want to call it to make things look like they're not as bad as they are. There's something to note here, and I think majority of people don't know this, and I think a lot of realtors don't even know it, but the numbers that the real estate board releases is what's called the process sales date. And so what basically, just to quickly get at it, is 21 of the homes of the 80 detached Vancouver East homes that were sold, those are all in contract before the foreign buyer tax was even announced. And those counted as August sales, even though they were agreed to. Some of them were agreed to back in May. And now they're just finally being processed by the board, and they're counting them as a sale in August. So a lot of these deals, about one-fourth of the deals that came through in the August sales are actually not even really August sales.
We know traditionally that the summer is kind of a lull period for buying property. When are we likely to see the true impact of this particular tax? We had Dan Morrison before saying that it won't be until the fall we'll see that. Is he right in saying that?
Well,
yeah, I think.
Sorry, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Look, if I was in an economics seminar trying to claim this was a result of the tax, I'd get eggs thrown at me. The problem is we already had a pre-existing trend. July was worse, I believe, than a year ago in July, and worse than June. The exchange rate's gotten less favorable. My sense, and Steve can certainly address this as well, is the high-end sort of foreign dependent part of the market, I do not think was as strong in July as it was in, say, February through May. So how much of this is an extension of a weakening market, and how much is a reaction to a tax? Clearly, there's a reaction to the tax, but how much? Very difficult to tell.
Steve, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Tom definitely nailed it on the head there. I think what will be a really good indicator is how September plays out. Historically, a busier month, so I think once we kind of get some numbers from there, I think that'll give us a really good sense of where we're heading. But I mean, definitely that things were trending downwards much before the tax was announced.
So a lot of people are sort of sitting on the fence again, wondering, should I buy, should I sell? What would you say to them, Tom?
Well, look, this market is very difficult to forecast. I do think the nice thing is if you're looking at homes, you don't quite have the gun to your head you had a few months ago, where it was, we're going to look at the place Saturday, got to have an offer Tuesday, and the offer has to be totally clean, no subject. Mm-hmm. I think if you're committed to living in Vancouver for a long time, I would not. I don't think there's any problem looking at properties. Maybe lowball a little bit. relative to what your bidding strategy would have been a few months ago. But if you're comfortable with payments, it's not a problem, I think, to buy even in a market like this, given low interest rates. However, if you're thinking, I'm going to buy this property so that I can sell it 2 years down the road for a profit, that's usually not a good idea, and I think it would be a particularly poor idea today.
Interesting. Steve, I heard someone, and I can't even remember who it was, I heard some pundit saying that it's now a buyer's market, I believe they said, in West Vancouver. I mean, is it really? Have things cooled so much that now buyers have the upper hand in some areas?
I think for detached houses, absolutely. Definitely, in my opinion, it's a buyer's market. In terms of condos and townhouses, it still is a seller's market. There's obviously, sales are down a little bit. There is definitely
Steve, I'm going to stop you right there because I saw another report this morning saying that condo sales are up. So what numbers are right? I've seen 3 different numbers of sales being down quoted today. Which are the correct numbers that we should be looking at here?
Yeah, exactly. It is hard to get accurate information. It's something I've been tracking for a while. So I looked at the main areas. I mean, even if you go by what the real estate board covers, I looked at Vancouver, Richmond, Burnaby, which in my opinion are the 3 biggest markets. Condo sales compared to last year were down 23%, so compared to last August. But historically, so I just looked over a historic period from 2010 to 2014, they're still up on an average August about 14%.
Okay.
Interesting. I saw an article the other day where someone actually used the words, the bubble has burst in Vancouver. And I thought, well, that's a huge exaggeration. Tom, I want to ask you, for all the people who thought that the province brought in this foreign buyer tax to actually bring prices down, do you think that that's what the province was doing?
Hard to tell. I think that has to have been something in the back of their minds. This is a very bold step. 15% on purchase is an enormous tax. Unless you're planning to stay a very long time, you're just not going to pay that.
Isn't it more of a marketing ploy to get people to vote for the BC Liberals in the May election?
Well, I'm sure it was political. I mean, there's no question politicians are political creatures. And, despite being an American, I think the BC Liberals play the game pretty well. But they run a risk. This market, in my opinion, does not make sense, these prices, for the local buyer. If you don't believe foreign buyers are an important part of the market today and an increasingly one in the future. They may be, but without them, we run the risk of a serious price correction. And given how dependent this economy is on real estate, there is a real risk of a general economic downturn. I don't think it's the likeliest scenario. I'd put maybe a 25-30% probability on it. But, things could get fairly nasty even in time for the election. So if this was pure marketing with no intention to do anything to the economy, I think the leadership will be surprised. But I think they had to have known what they were getting into.
All right. Thanks, you guys. We'll keep a watch on this and see where the trends go. But it's always fascinating to talk about the Metro Vancouver real estate market.
And it's good to see a real estate agent and an economist working together to give people the information they need. Guys, that is something you should be applauded for, by the way.
Thanks very much, and have a great long weekend.
Thank you. Real pleasure to be with you all.
Steve Saretsky, Vancouver realtor, and Tom Davidoff there, UBC economist. I'm still kind of confused, I'll be honest with you.
I know, but you know what? That's the thing. Whenever you have statistics, people can always spin them to tell whatever story they want to tell. So, yeah.
Did someone really write an article say the bubble has burst? Please tell me they got please tell me they got hauled into an editorial meeting and been told not to say that ever again. I think it was
somebody at Bloomberg or something like that. It was not a local journalist, obviously, but maybe somebody who was looking for a sexy headline.
Right. Some clickbait.